Hello, and welcome to the ONTIC Protective Intelligence Podcast. I'm Fred Burton with the ONTIC Center for Connected Intelligence. During my years as a counterterrorism agent with the U.S. State Department and time spent as a physical security expert in the private sector, I've seen it all and met many fascinating people along the way. This podcast series explores the riveting world of safety, security, and protection through conversations with leaders in the field. I'm Fred Burton, and now on to the podcast. Hi, I'm Fred Burton here today with Bill Villanova. Bill is the president of Frank E. Campbell, the funeral chapel in New York City, which has a rich history as arguably the most well-known funeral home in Manhattan, if not the nation. Bill is well known for implementing and promoting the highest standards in funeral service, of which security and privacy are paramount. As an expert in his field, he has been sought after for interviews, presentations, film consulting, acting, and as a contributing author. Bill is the recipient of the Silver Life-Saving Medal from the United States Coast Guard. Bill, welcome to the ONTIC Protective Intelligence Podcast.
Fred, thanks for having me.
Bill, you've got a fascinating job, and when we booked you as a guest, the first thought that crossed my mind was I had an opportunity to visit the LAPD Homicide Division once, and they have a sign hanging there that says, "Our day begins when your day ends." And in looking at your funeral chapel, you've handled some of the largest celebrity funerals, heck, in history here, from John Lennon to Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Rudolph Valentino, Heath Ledger, and the list goes on and on and on. How did you get into this business?
Well, Fred, as a young boy, my dad died when I was 16, and I spent a lot of time with my godfather, and he had two funeral homes. And as a young boy, I would cut the grass and then trim the hedges. And before you know it, I was working in the visitations for funeral services, helping park cars. And it was almost second nature to work in and around the funeral home. And as I got older, it was clear that it was a profession, a calling. And I went to college, earned my degree in mortuary science, and that's how I began.
And in many ways, just looking at the celebrity funerals, this is just special event management, isn't it?
Well, you're correct. It is definitely a special event. It is managing it all and directing the funeral, and ultimately adhering to all the family's needs and wants. It could be religious customs or cultural customs. But it's a balance, and it's a tremendous amount of detail and preparation that goes into every funeral, but specifically for some of these higher profile funerals.
Yeah, we all have been to several over the course of our lives, and some are huge. And of course, you watch some of these tremendously large events. Back when I was a special agent, we used to protect Princess Diana, and I vividly recall watching that funeral unfold on TV and just shaking my head and so forth, but then also thinking about the logistics that go into play. Talk a little bit about how you go about planning for that kind of high-profile funeral.
So we approach every funeral, from an opportunity to our logistics, lay out the logistics, our transportation, how we're going to approach a building, our egress, and identify every opportunity for us to make it safe and secure. We don't want the family to be interrupted, nor we don't want them to know what we're doing. We want them to experience the funeral as it should be. It should be all about their loved one and their family, and all the logistics that we have to go through in the background. That's our burden. That's our responsibility. So we are discussing with local law enforcement, if there's any street closures. We want to use streets that are that have at least two lanes. We don't want to get stuck on a single lane road. We want to use main thoroughfares. We want to make sure that when we're arriving, that there's ample parking, that we have an advance team if it's at a church, if it's at an event space, even going to the cemetery. With larger funerals, we'll always have an advance team, maybe two advance teams. And so it's all about the logistics. Communication is obviously in any event very important. So we rely heavily on over communicating, making sure that we have ample staffing, and we go from there.
Bill, it sounds exactly like many of the United Nations General Assembly motorcades that I've been in, as well as some of the Middle East peace conferences, just the planning. And I learned a long time ago that logistics are always the challenge. What are some of the hard lessons learned over the course of your career in this business, and how have they changed your approach to thinking about security at future events?
One lesson I've learned, probably more so over the past 5 years, is that every time you have a plan, it's a great plan until somebody looks to change it for you. And it could be an attendee that's a principal attendee, and you know as well as I do, Fred, that when we are holding events, and we know that there's going to be someone coming that's a protectee, they may arrive late. They want to arrive last. But we can't make it look like we're holding up the funeral. So we want to be effortless in that sense. So when it comes to our approach, logistics, I talked about communication before, but I would say the most important thing is to be flexible, be nimble, and know where your resources are. And then the other piece of this too is decision makers. We always have to have that core group of decision makers that can speak on behalf of a team, speak on behalf of a group of people that are handling transport. We don't want to waste time with someone saying, "I need to get an answer for you," or "I can't do that." We want to always have our decision makers together to make things seamless and appear effortless.
You know, Bill, I know how many people it takes to staff a traditional protective detail. When you're looking at a large scale event for like a celebrity funeral, what kind of numbers are you talking about behind the scenes? Like how many folks are actually engaged in the operation?
So we can have our staff that does a great job, and I'd say that they work very well with law enforcement because they know what's expected of us and the detail that we provide. So we start with our communications. All of our team, our key members of our team, they're all wired up. When it comes to our security detail, they're wired as well. So we have some great communication. Sometimes we'll share our communications as best we can to overlap. And we're talking at some instances, we can be working with 50 members of multiple agencies. For example, we've had services here over the past couple of years where it was members of the NYPD plus the Secret Service, then private security, and then our staff here. And really, I'd say most of the time it works very well. Sometimes there's obstacles when we have multiple private security details. Everybody wants to be in charge, Fred, right?
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
so to rein them in, kind of set the tone, and to say that, listen, we all know that everybody's important here, but at the end of the day, this is about a funeral, and it's about the immediate members of the family. And if we can't play nice, then then we have to have a different conversation.
It reminds me of many of my planning meetings in New York before kicking off a major event of like a Yasser Arafat visit or something, trying to get NYPD intel, the FBI, everybody in the same room working together is easier said than done.
You're right, Fred. And and we have our expectation as well. So the Secret Service, they'll come in, they'll sweep our building, before the event, and then ultimately, we close it down. We go through our background checks to make sure that we're all good. That is a it's a it's a common occurrence when we're at that level of service, but it's not frequent. So we just have to be ready. We debrief, we train when we have the opportunity to ensure that our staff understands what's expected of them. And we know that not every funeral is the same. There's no two funerals that are the same. There's no two events that are the same. And but we all know what the goal is.
We'll get back to the conversation in just a moment, but first I wanted to tell you a little bit about ONTIC's Center for Connected Intelligence. In the world of safety, security, and protection, we know that gathering and sharing information is crucial. That is why we created the ONTIC Center for Connected Intelligence. The center is a hub for the ongoing exchange of security strategies and best practices, insights on current and past trends, and sharing valuable information through expert discussion and analysis. It's made up of seasoned experts across a wide range of disciplines. To find blogs, podcasts, webinars, white papers, and more, check out the center by visiting ontic.co/center. That's ontic.co/center. Bill, how do you handle the paparazzi? I know in some of these, especially celebrity funerals, whoever's got inside pictures or whatever it might be of this kind of event is can be worth a lot of money to some of the tabloids and so forth. So how do you go about dealing with that? Do you have your own kind of lookout system for those individuals that might try to sneak into events, for example?
So usually, we have an understanding. We'll speak with the client family early on and identify whether or not this is going to be a private or a public event. If it's going to be a private event early on, if people are calling and asking, "Are you handling the services for a specific person?" We always say we're not, and we take that all the way until the day that they may see us leaving the building and making our way to a place of worship or a cemetery. So we always deny that we're providing the services, and I'd say there's a fair amount of drop off that happens there, even though they can always expect that chances are we're going to provide those services. We work with the NYPD, and they will bring the metal barricades here, and they'll set up a media pen, an appropriate area, appropriate size for the most part. When that happens, usually the media is very respectful. If we are hosting an event either here at the funeral home or at a place of worship, we always create pinch points, where you have to come in, whether it is members of the family, relatives, guests. They have to come through one area, and so we can control who is coming in. And whether we're working off of a specific guest list or there is a printed invitation, we work with a client family and their staff to ensure that we're not missing anyone coming in. And when in doubt, we do not let someone in until we're absolutely sure and certain that they need to be on site with us.
The logistics that you're talking about, Bill, are so identical for just planning a large-scale security special event. It's really amazing. I imagine that you also have to plan for things such as vehicles breaking down, like we did for motorcades and so forth.
Yeah, Fred, you hit that perfectly. It's almost like you set me up for success on this question. I love it. So we do run empty vehicles in that case. Sometimes we do need to provide additional transportation, and for our higher profile funerals, we will run a second hearse that will travel approximately 15 minutes behind the funeral. Just in case we do need that asset. And then also with transportation is part of it. The other piece of that is also safe spaces. So we always prepare to ensure that there are safe spaces. So if the Secret Service deems and they sweep the funeral home and they deem that the funeral home is a safe space, for their protectee, we're good. And we may leave and go to a place of worship for a funeral. The Secret Service maintains the funeral home as a safe space should the protectee need to be brought back here, if there's an issue while transporting, or if there is an issue at the place of worship. So they great question, and we do provide for all of that.
What are some of the things that the average person would not think about, or gaps in security that many fail to address when thinking about this kind of an event?
One thing that it happens to us all the time is it's the emotion, and we are clear on who is supposed to be coming in, and and maybe there may be a cousin or an uncle that says, I have to be there, it's my nephew, or I have to be there, it's my cousin, or so it's not an immediate member of the family, and but we're trying to do our very best, and it comes down to a family member making a decision to allow someone to come in that may not be on the list. It may not be a known person to us, but it may be to them. So not necessarily a lapse, but it's something we can't provide for. It's almost like a wedding, right? You can have your guest list of 200 people, and you think you have it all set, and then someone turns around and says, we forgot Aunt Mary. Right.
Right.
And the same thing can hold true for a funeral where there's a great amount of detail and the list is complete, but they did forget someone. Or maybe it's a celebrity that shows up that we need to, be sure that, they're okay to come in. It's not about that celebrity saying, I want to get into a club or a restaurant, and the club or restaurant are, just more than happy to have them there for the media. But for us, that's not that important. As a matter of fact, we pride ourselves on the confidence that families place in us, and that trust. And so we maintain confidentiality. And for us, it's not about the media. It's not about the advertising. We actually look back on some of our funerals and say, can you believe that they didn't get a picture of anything at the place of worship because we didn't share it? Can you believe that no one got a picture here? And even just entering the funeral home, we use, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of details have used in the past, but large black umbrella. Walking out of the funeral home, we're taking someone out of a vehicle with 3 or 4 people around them with large black umbrellas, pointed sideways. You can't get a shot. You can't see the person. You can't get a shot with a camera. And we get them into the vehicle, out of the vehicle, and into the funeral home. So it's something we do quite often, and we pride ourselves that we can protect our client families that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was rereading the list of just the celebrity funerals that you've had at your location, and I can only imagine the paparazzi interest. My mind was uh, harking back to working like inaugural events and so forth, and just thinking of crowds. And I would imagine that you have a lot of the press just camped out stalking in your location when you have one of these high profile funerals, that once they get wind of it.
They do, and we see them, and for the most part, a lot of the paparazzi they're respectful. We can walk over and say, "Hey guys, listen, can you give us a break here?" Or, and then sometimes we'll throw them a curveball. We'll put some activity, near one door, make it look like we're coming out of one door, and then use a different one. We may, you know, let's just say move a an empty vehicle, and they're thinking that that's the vehicle that's being used, so they're focused all, maybe going down, 81st Street, west on 81st, and we're actually moving north on Madison. So there's little tricks that we use. Sometimes they work well, sometimes we they don't, but we're always trying our very best. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, we used to call those dummy motorcades.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what we've done.
I assume you also at your events have contingency plans that cover everything from bomb threats to medical.
We do. We quite often, in addition to security being safety and security, we do provide private medical. So if we need to, we will hire an ambulance with a medical team, and they're just on standby. And so we will have the ambulance with one or two people outside of the facility. We'll have a medic inside with their go bag if we do need them. So that happens quite often. We've also talked about and we've provided for secondary places for events. Some families may want to have an event outside, and we have to be prepared to move inside should the weather change or should there be an issue. So we've had scheduled events that also have backup places for the event to take place, the funeral to take place, whether that be indoor or outdoor.
Bill, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to say?
Fred, I think you kind of hit it all. When we talk about it, and I was honored to receive the phone call from Katie and speak about what we do, and I'm excited that Ontic took interest in what we do as well. Our nation, our city has been challenged like never before. And so the people that provide the safety and security for families that are going to funerals, or whether it's people that are attending a concert or a sporting event, our law enforcement and what you guys do is paramount. So I appreciate that law enforcement, that security community, keeping our city safe and our nation safe, and I hope to maybe connect with you guys again in the future. Who knows? But it's been an honor to speak with you today.
Well, thank you so much for what you do, Bill. And I sincerely say that I know that you're dealing with families at their most difficult moments. So it's been a pleasure and an honor to chat with you today.
Thank you, Fred.
This episode was brought to you by the Ontic Center for Connected Intelligence. Learn more at ontic.co/center. Again, that's ontic.co/center. It was produced by AJ McKeon. Our music is a track called Monteverdi Ride and was written by Brian Bristow and performed by Smokin' Novas. Check them out on Spotify. Please remember to rate and review our podcast on iTunes and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions, we'd love to hear them. You can reach us at podcasts@ontic.co or visit ontic.co/center for more information. Thanks for listening.